So I started this just over 10 years ago with 182 mailers. I did not, shamefully admit I didn't have my database together. So I just took my wife and I's Christmas card list and started with that. It's 182 people. I hand addressed them all, sent them out, and 2 loans came within the next month. So that math is important as we go through this call. So I take 2 things in mind when I sit down and start writing the letter every month. One is from Robert Collier, which I'm sure you've heard before, Josh. You need to enter the conversation already taking place in the customer's mind. And I wiped out customers and inserted clients because a customer is somebody that goes to McDonald's and gets a cheeseburger. A client is somebody that you have under your care. I learned that from Jay Abraham, who I'd mentioned earlier. So a client is under your care. So we don't have customers, we have clients. And that's a very important language that I think we should all adapt is they're clients, not customers. And then I've had the opportunity to go down to Omaha a couple times to see Warren Buffett at the Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders event. And his annual shareholder letter is very well read. And he described it when he writes it. He says, in visualizing the owners of Berkshire, I'm lucky to have the perfect mental model, my sister Bertie. When I write the shareholder report, I write it as if I'm sitting to my sister Bertie. So he's writing a letter to her, not to the thousands of shareholders that are going to be reading it. So that's my mindset is what's going on in the conversation that, you are having with Hillary, like what's going on in your life right now that might be disturbing that we can help you with. And also I'm going to write to Josh and Hillary, not to 10,000 people, right?
So good. I love it. What a great frame.
Okay. So what's inside the letters? I talk about my kids. There's my son and his soccer team. They're really good. My wife and I like to travel. Here we were in the Douro Valley in Portugal this summer. Some market updates. If I go out to an industry event and see Barry Habib, I'll share with my audience what Barry has to say about the market. So success stories of clients that we've helped, kind of like the Superman. If we found somebody that was turned down by 2 other places, we'll make a quick paragraph in that next month's letter of how we helped somebody that was turned down by their credit union and by the big bank, and how we were able to navigate their finances to get their loan approved. So it's not necessarily mortgage driven, real estate driven. We'll insert that as appropriate if it's applicable for that month. But the takeaways to the letter are you need to have a call to action. And so we essentially will have 2 calls to action. One is to try and get them to call me to schedule a time if they are looking at doing a cash out refinance to remodel, or if their kids are going to college, or if they, if I wrote about somebody that bought their first investment property, I'll say, if you're interested in becoming an investor, give me a call. We can talk about that. And then I also ask them if you hear of anybody that's looking at making a move or getting into real estate or graduating college that might be looking to buy, I thank you in advance for any referrals. So that's the first call to action. And then in the PS line, there's a second call to action. I'll break the letter into some quotes, and then I'll highlight one of the quotes and say, hey, Josh, text me who this quote can be attributed to for a chance to win a $100 gift card to a local restaurant. And then so what we do is, get the mail out. A week later, we'll have 15, 20 text messages from clients. I'll put them all alphabetically in a spreadsheet. I send them a BombBomb video. So it's like Albert, Bill, Carol, Josh, and Susan, you guys are the contestants this month. So BombBomb goes out letting them know they're in the drawing. And then my son or daughter will come home from school one day. They're wearing their school uniform with their backpack on. They'll grab a dart in our garage and throw a dart at the dartboard. And if it lands on 4, Susan's the winner. I send the video of my kid throwing the dart out to all of them, and then send them a $100 gift card. And then everybody else that enters gets a $5 Starbucks gift card for participating.
It's great.
So that's kind of the call to action. And it's amazing the number of people that respond to that, because it's like for 5 seconds of their time, most people just Google, who said big hinges, or big doors swing on small hinges. Like that was last month's quote. And so people will, text me, W. Clement Stone. It's like, I know you Googled that and that's okay, but you participate. So it just creates that engagement, and it allows me to go on a path with people that I might not have thought about in a while who respond to the trivia. And I'll say, hey, what's up? How's Xander doing? Like get engaged with them on a personal level on a, Tuesday night or a Saturday morning, whenever they happen to text me.
So cool. Love it.
So here's the outcomes. And on a very local, I've got like a celebrity status amongst my clients. So we generally don't meet with clients in person. It's very, very, very rare. So the most they'll ever see me is on a Zoom call, and oftentimes it's just phone calls. But I'll be at a restaurant or at my kid's soccer game, or I was at a financial planner's office where one of the employees at that office was a client of ours. And I'll run into these people out in public, and they all say the same thing. Like, are you Jay? I'm like, yeah. And then I usually will recognize them from like driver's licenses, be like, oh yeah, you're Josh from Salt Lake City, right? Yeah. And they'll say the same thing to me. It's like every single one says, we've never actually met in person, Jay, but other than the phone call or Zoom call, but I feel like I know you and your family as well as I know my own. Keep sending those letters. We really appreciate them. And it's like I'm getting like chills on my skin right now because it's like I've never met that person before, but they literally told me they feel like they know me and my family as well as they know their own.
It reminds me that Tim's been talking a lot about connection, right? Connection with referral partners, connection with customers. The mortgage advisor with the most friends wins. And you're giving a tangible, real life example on how that theory that he's been talking about works. And I don't know if you know this, Jay. I think I told you this, but I wrote a newsletter for over a decade when I was originating. And then when I grew my team and turned over my book of business, I quit writing the newsletter. I gave that book of business to them, but I regret not continuing to write the newsletter, even though I had turned over my book of business, to be honest. And I had the exact same thing happen. And you've probably had this happen too. Hillary and the kids have been at grocery stores and people will walk up to him and be like, hey, is your dad or husband Josh Mettle? And they're like, yeah. Or they'll walk up and be like, is your name Xander? And he's totally freaked out. They're like, oh, well, we get your dad's newsletter and read it every month. So I can absolutely attest to what you're saying is true.
Yeah, and there's an inside joke with my kids. Like whenever we go to Costco or go to a Timberwolves basketball game, like almost without exception, I'll run into somebody I went to college with or somebody I did a loan for. I'll just run into somebody like out and about. And so we went to a Loons soccer game. It's like the local professional soccer team. We went to a Loons game 2 seasons ago. We walked out of the stadium and it was with his team and some other parents I know, but he stopped me as we exit the stadium, get the Uber stand. He's like, Dad, you didn't see anybody today. And I was like, you're right. And we started walking towards like further down the Uber stand. And I see this St. Paul cop walking towards an unmarked cop car. And I see the badge and his last name was Reese. I'm like, I'm keeping the streak alive. I'm like, Eric? He looks up and he like has his sunglasses on with the cop uniform. He's like, Jay Dacey? I was like, man, it's been like 27 years. He was like a friend of my brother's from high school. So like I thought the streak was broken from going out in public and being recognized. And I kept alive that day with the cop.
That's hilarious. I love it.